Inspired by Love is a podcast hosted by Rachel Love, dedicated to promoting inspiration, hope, and giving a healthy dose of God's love for every aspect of life. Rachel is a seasoned inspirational enthusiast who uses witty commentary and biblical truths for real-life solutions, offers business strategies, health and wealth tips, and self-love care. Unlock the power tools to dig deeper, discover your untapped potential, and live your best extraordinary life. Here's your host, Rachel Love.
And welcome to Inspired by Love. I'm Rachel Love, the host, and I am so delighted to have a wonderful couple, the Baileys, with us today as we discuss dating, marriage, and relationships as God designed. So, welcome to the show, the Baileys.
Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting us.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
So, I kind of want to start off with a little fun fact. I gave everyone a hashtag, and your hashtag was dope AF.
Yes.
So, what do you think that AF stands for?
You know what? I didn't want to rename AF because I think everybody can read between the lines. Like we all know what it means, but I think the essence of what it represents is just something that is as awesome as it can be. Like you're at your full potential. It's maximized. It's just top shelf. And I think that's what we wanted to like really stay true to and why we chose Dope AF. Is God's given us so much in our marriage, and we can reach our full potential in it because of Him bringing us together and just being in it. So that's why we chose that one.
But for me specifically, Dope AF, I'm taking it as dope as family, because I believe family is
that's good.
It should be, and it could be, and the most amazing foundation and the most amazing gift that you can have if you really put the time and the effort into it. So to me, I want to make being a family, make that being dope again. I want to make families dope again. So dope is family.
Okay, Kareem, I'm just going to let you know that's a shirt. Go ahead and copyright it. Go ahead and trademark it, because that is that what you just said right there. That's a whole vibe. That's catch your life on that one. Okay, that's what this is what we're talking about. We're talking about families and marriage as God designed, dating, relationships, interpersonal relationships. I mean, it all really starts with the family. It really stems from how you were in a family and what you saw in your family, and Mignonette, what you saw in your family, and you guys merge the family. And so let's just kind of kick it off. Mimi, can you just kind of tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, your children, and just kind of lead, where you're from.
Okay, great. All right. Well, oh goodness, the the long and short. I grew up here in Southern California, raised family of 5.
Ooh.
We had a lot of dysfunction in our family, unfortunately. So there were a lot of things that I've had to unlearn. I've had to heal from. I've had to forgive, and I've really had to be intentional about setting new ways for our family to engage in a healthy way, and in ways that I didn't see demonstrated when I was growing up. And so that has been, something that even at this stage in my life, at 40 years old and almost married for 15 years, that I feel like I've just really started to intentionally lean into just in the last couple years.
Yes.
It was, it's really easy, especially as a believer, to just put the Jesus Band-Aid on everything, kind of gloss over it and keep going, to suppress, to ignore, to all of that, traumatic things that have happened to us. But in the last couple of years, both my parents passed away, and that just brought to the surface a lot of things that I realized, wow, these things really weren't ever fully addressed, and therefore they weren't fully healed. It was just something that I could ignore
Yeah.
I'm good at ignoring and suppressing it.
I'm sorry
Um,
for your loss.
oh, thank you. No,
And I didn't know your mom, so that, that I
yeah,
understand that how that happened.
yeah,
So
yeah. But it just reveals that there are things that can still be living inside of us that we're not even aware of. And those are things that, in order for me to bring my best to my family, I've had to really seek out the help, the counseling, the therapy, to really look at it for what it was, so that that healing could happen. So
awesome.
yeah, so it's been a bumpy,
Mhm.
process,
Mhm.
but at least it's a process where there's motion, and I'm
Yes,
not where I was. Yeah,
that
so
part.
grateful to have the support of the family while all that is happening. So yeah.
Yeah. And Kareem, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, and where you're from?
Yeah, okay, definitely. So I'll start where I'm from. I was born in North Carolina, then lived in Atlanta, Virginia before moving out to California.
Mm-hmm.
My mom is a minister. My dad is a reggae artist, and so I'm kind of a mix between those two worlds
Yeah.
right there. As far as what I do, I teach, as well as also have a band. So I'm a musician as well. And
Mm-hmm.
so those two things on top of the family definitely keeps me busy 24/7. But it's cool to be able to have something to have an outlet, to have a way to get creativity out, and have a way to influence culture, or to be able to like put a stamp on what, kind of raising the bar on what I believe culture should be, and the things that are in culture, and the things that we're able to kind of sing about and speak about in music. Being able to to put that out there, put that kind of energy out there into the world is I'm very blessed. I feel very blessed to be able to do that. So
That
it's
is
cool.
amazing. Yes, yes. So I have a question for both of you. When did you first realize what love was? Mimi, I'm gonna start with you.
Gosh, that's such a
When she heard my
big
voice.
boy. This guy right here. Oh my goodness. At face value, I could answer that question from an emotional place, because I think so often we interpret love by how it makes us feel and what it
Mhm.
feels like. But I really have learned to redefine love by how God defines it.
Yes.
Corinthians chapter 13, love is patient,
Mhm.
love is kind, and really, without the tension of a relationship, you can't really have love until those things are challenged, until your
Yes.
patience and your kindness and your, all of those things that are mentioned are really put to the test. Um, and I feel like those things weren't really put to the test for me now in this immediate family, um, until things really got challenging. And that was when it was like, okay, when you don't have the fuzzy feelings anymore, when
Oh, come on.
things are really difficult, that's really when you see and can measure how much love there is. So
Yeah.
I think back to the challenging times, the times where it was like I was looking at him and he's looking at me, and it's like, okay, what are we gonna do?
We out
But
here. Lord, where you at?
yeah, seriously, that's really,
Woo.
I think, when the love, where, if I'm going to answer it by how God defines it, those difficult moments for me is when I really saw that our love grew. And
Mhm.
when I said, okay, that's love. We overcame
Yeah.
that. We forgave that. We grew from that. We moved on from that. We learned from that, whatever it was. That's really what comes to mind for me.
Good. That's very good.
And you?
What is your answer? Long and short of it.
It's definitely some similar things. Like when you go through the ups and downs, especially in the first few years of the marriage, it's just like, and I thought it was all her. You know what I mean? I figured all the times issues we've had, I figured it was all her. She was just tripping about this or tripping about that. So I figured,
the
God,
woman that you gave me.
The woman that you gave me, like, man, like, God, come on now, you gotta, man, tell us something. You know what I mean? Like, it's got to be her because I think I'm fine. Like, I think I'm fine. So it's got to be her. But I realized that it wasn't all her, and so in the process of like her showing me things that I wasn't able to see on my own, and showing me places and areas where I needed to grow that I wasn't able to see on my own, and taking that information and kind of digesting that information, through the yelling and through the arguing and through the whatever, like understanding that what she's trying to do, and that it took a long time for me to kind of to peel through those layers of what I'm seeing and feeling and hearing to really get to what she's actually trying to say. And so, in that process, I realized that, this love thing is definitely not what you see on TV. It's definitely not, it's not all dates and roses and and bedroom time. Like it's way more than a lot of that. And I think the first time that it really hit me, like, wait a minute, like it's way deeper than that. Like the point where I don't like even when it comes to the bedroom side of things, like I don't even want to see or hear or touch you right now because I'm so mad. I'm so like, you know what I mean? And so when you get to that point, you realize like that.
You ain't never that mad.
I'm never like all the way that mad. But
let's be clear.
But I'm close. If the line is right there, I'm like right there to the line. I'm like right there. And so when I get to that point, I realize like no matter how cute she is, no matter how whatever, like I'm still like it's still an issue. It's still something, and I don't. And so realizing that once you take all of these things away, like what do you have? And if we were still able to, to have something and to keep wanting to try to make what we have better and grow what we have, then I feel like that's when I really fully understood what love was. Yeah, and I feel like that didn't really happen until after, after the marriage. You go through some things, you go through stuff before you get married, but I feel like once you get married, it becomes
it's magnified.
It gets magnified. Like it's a little deeper once you actually, once you actually say those vows, and now you're stuck with this person. It's like, it gets deep,
Yes.
Once, go ahead.
Well, I'm just saying, since you brought that up, I wanted to kind of transition us. So you said you've been married about 14 years or so?
Yeah, almost 15. Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to look at those 15 years, and now we're adding children. Ooh. So how has that dynamic changed the relationship? Whereas, I don't know how long you were, single and then married, and then together the two, and then you started growing your family. So talk about the change in the dynamic of the relationship.
That's good. I think, we dated for a year and a half. And then we were married in 2006, 2.5 years?
Yeah. 3 years.
It was like 3 years. 3 years. We were married for about 3 years before we had our first child. And I think,
which was a game changer.
Oh yeah, it was. It was, and I think for us, nobody, you don't know what parenting is going to bring out of you until the demand is made. You just don't. And it's so cute when I see people who don't have kids say, because we did the same thing. We have kids, we're not going to let our kids do this, and we're going to make our kids do that, and our kids are going to be like this. And we all have these Huxtable ideals of
Well,
what we want our kids to be like. But one thing that I think people fail to consider is one reason why it's so easy to look at somebody else's kids and say, I would never let my kid do this, or I would, do that, is because that child is an extension of you. And in some ways it's difficult to correct with conviction when sometimes you see similar behaviors in yourself and you're like, oh, so then your conscience is pricked and it's like, well, how can you be hard on them when you're doing the same thing, maybe that same area, but it's maybe it's in a different way.
You really side-eyeing yourself. You're saying, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And you can feel how God could probably be looking at you.
But
exactly.
Always.
He does not look at us the way we look at ourselves.
Yes,
he is not the type of God that's going to side-eye us and say, you did this, and you talk about her, and you talk about that plank in her eye, and you got this big old log in your eye. So thank God he doesn't do that. But he gives us his word, and that's our example. That's our blueprint for living. So, that's good. That's real juicy because see, a lot of people don't know. You don't know what you don't know, right? And maybe your parent didn't explain it, or they didn't say, well, okay, honey, when you get married and you start having your children, I just want you to remember. I don't remember that conversation. No. You just get thrown into it. Then you have this baby. You're like, what am I supposed to do with it?
Yeah. Yes. Help. It's true.
Oh my goodness. So Karim, tell us how the dynamic has changed for you as husband, as leader, protector, guider, provider. How has your role in the family kind of shifted and changed and matured you as a man?
One thing for sure is that it just makes you realize that whereas before you not necessarily thinking of, obviously you're married now, so it's not you're not thinking like a solo thing or like this, whatever your goals and whatever thing, whatever it is. But even more so now with the kids in the picture, is like, okay, now you have to really make decisions with the kids in mind first, to make sure that the kids are have what they need and in all aspects of life first. And so as a man, like men are usually we have the mindset to kind of be the ones that have to go out there and be the breadwinners, or go out there and like make things happen for the family, or bring in stuff for bring in resources for the family and whatnot. And so it's a little bit different when now kids are in the picture, where you might not have the freedom like you would like to be able to go out there and just do work, go, because you can't, because you have to physically be there with family, physically be there with the kids, physically be there with with your family. And so that's definitely something that is an adjustment. It's an adjustment, because I think a lot of guys, I can't speak for all guys, but I know a lot of guys definitely have the mindset of, like I said before, having to go out there and make something happen for the family, and whatever your thing is, whether I'm a businessman or whether I'm a entrepreneur or whether I'm an artist or whatever the case is, like you just want to go out there and make that thing and make your way with your craft or with your with your thing. But it changes once kids are in the picture. So you have to really be sober minded about that and understand what that actually means for for you, for the family, for them. And so that's probably one of the biggest things that changed for me as it relates to the kids is that particular aspect.
What you really described is you're not a man that's going to go out and buy a 2-seater sports car when you got 2 kids at home.
Right.
3 kids. Right. It's like, come on, you're gonna make wise decisions, and you're gonna count the cost. Sometimes we don't count the cost, and you suffer, and the family suffers. So that's really when the wife should step in and say, okay, honey, let's just pray about this before we make these rash decisions. If you want to go and start a business, let's just pray about it and see what the Lord says. And so I'm thankful that you guys have been able to tap in spiritually. But now I want to kind of turn the tide and talk about your career choices. So you mentioned, you're an artist, you're a talent, you're creative. And so how has the Lord inspired you in having a craft, being a talent, showcasing your talents? How has that either impacted your marriage or, maybe held you back in some regard?
That's a good question. You want to
So,
go first?
you go.
Yeah, we're both in artistic, creative fields. I work as an actor, and I didn't always, but it had always lived in my heart.
Mm-hmm.
And we made the decision after we had our youngest, who is about 2.5 now, that I would not be returning to a 9-to-5 job. And so that was just a big step of faith for both of us, because at the time, you're talking about surrendering regular income for something that can be very volatile, very unstable. And so all I knew was that that was what the Lord was leading me to do. And so I'm thankful that Karim was on the same page, and that the Lord, began to show him even before we officially made that decision that he would be taking care of us and that he would take care of us. And
That's
so
wonderful.
that just, boosted our confidence to keep going. But, there were definitely times where when my older kids, they're 11 and 9, when they were younger, that I felt the pressure of, I have to do this now. I have to do this while I'm young. This has to happen while I'm in my 20s. This has to happen when I'm in my, early 30s. If it doesn't happen, oh no, I'm running out of time. You feel all that pressure. And all I know is that even though I had a foot in that, that wasn't a door that the Lord completely opened to me until later on. And so I really just had to resist the pressure that society was putting on me, the world was putting on me, and just really trust God's plan. Okay, fine. I'll take this 9-to-5. I have this dream, but I'm going to work this 9-to-5 and I'm going to be faithful in it. And then, I'm going to, okay, you want me to work in youth ministry? Wow, that was a curveball. Okay, well, we'll go do that, Lord. Meanwhile, this dream is still in my heart. I still want to do it. And I still would have opportunities in between to do it, but obviously I wasn't able to just saturate myself in it the way I really wanted to. But okay, Lord, fine, but all the while time is ticking, and I'm looking at him like, okay, I know a day is 1,000 years to you and 1,000 years is a day to, and all that. But for me right now, time is ticking. I need you to be mindful of that. And so he's really redeemed the time. Just saying all that to redeem the time.
Amen.
Yeah.
Kareem?
It's.
Should I get you going?
Yeah, I was listening to you and kind of just, my mind was kind of just going on until I kind of got stuck on the youth ministry thing. Like, man, that we really did get.
Y'all did that.
That was a curveball.
Yeah.
But let me just interject something right there, because I've actually felt that, in my own life, when the Lord comes in with something and it's like, wow, Lord, I didn't see that coming. But deep down inside, you have a knowing. You say, okay, Lord, I really desire this thing over here. But then he opens it up and gives you a bigger picture.
Yeah.
There's a bigger pool that he wants you to play in. And so when God is directing, sometimes we have to take a step back. And that's not always a step down. It's just stepping back and releasing it. So, because I don't never want to be, I've been an event planner. So I don't ever want to be the person in control, because I've been in control and things always go left. And so I'm like, Lord, I want to be on your right. I want to be on the right hand of you, like Jesus. And so the only way that I'm going to be on that side is learning how to surrender.
Yeah.
And when I learn to surrender to his will, things will start working out. The things, you lost your job, you just had a baby. I mean, I was in all those different things. And it's like the Lord saw me through. He saw me, my back was against the wall. He saw me through. So I never had to like beg, borrow, or plead, because he was always right there, my provider, Jehovah Jireh. So Kareem, tell us how that has impacted you as a man being in a creative field, doing entrepreneur work, maybe not a traditional 9 to 5.
Yeah, it's similar. It's similar to what my wife said, and in that it's I'm still waiting. I feel like I'm still waiting on God to show me exactly what, and not even just show me, but to kind of close out one thing as another thing opens. And that's what I'm kind of like, I believe that that's going to be the transition, is that as one thing closes or as one thing opens, then another thing will close. So I'm kind of just kind of waiting, and even with the whole pandemic, that definitely threw a big
Well,
monkey wrench in a lot of my own personal like plans and thoughts and ideas. And I know that, it caught me by surprise. It didn't catch God by surprise, but it definitely
no.
caught me by surprise. And so even with that, just really just trusting, and it kind of showed me that trust factor is real, and my timing is not his timing. His timing is
That's
not
right.
better than my timing, but I know that his timing is the best timing. And so
Yes.
knowing that, and just kind of swallowing my own like
Mhm.
thoughts and pride and ideas and whatever the case is, to try to just wait for his timing of whatever it's supposed to be. That's kind of where I am right now, and just and it's not all bad. It's showing me that especially like I said with the pandemic, like it's showing
Yeah.
me that you know things can change, anything can change, and if it's and it can't just be up to whatever my thoughts and whatever my goals and whatever my the plan that I think is going to be the right plan and the right whatever. Like no, it has to be him. You know what I
Yes.
mean? And so that's kind
Yes.
of where I am
Yes.
right now. It's just in that place of trust. Like it's got to be you. Whatever whatever is going to be what I'm supposed to do and where I'm supposed to be and all of those things. Like I have to just leave it up to him, because I definitely don't have the strength or the ability or the foresight or the knowledge or the wisdom or any of those things to kind of make those things happen on my own. So just waiting.
I'm happy to hear that, because I will share with you, I attended your seminar last year, and I was really impressed, and I brought my son with me because he's definitely creative and he's in the marketplace. And I'm like, see, son, this is how it's done. You when you put God first, everything else falls into place. Well, neither did I know. My job shut down, so I haven't worked in the last year. But
Wow.
God, but God. And I don't know if you know my story, but 5 years ago, I suffered a sudden cardiac arrest, and I died on my living room floor.
Goodness gracious.
And it was my husband. God spoke to him and said, go check on your wife.
Goodness gracious.
So you talk about changes and things, those things that catch us off by surprise, but it doesn't catch God by surprise, because he said he knows our beginning from our end. He knew us before he placed us in our mother's womb. So there's things that God knows, so we have to learn to trust him. So I'm sitting here today, a walking miracle, because I can't even tell you how long that I was not breathing. It could have been longer than 5 minutes. And then they came and they did the defibrillator and they shocked me a couple of times.
Wow.
But my
Wow.
pulse was back and they rushed me to the hospital. and they induced me into a medical coma for 3 days. So you know that number 3, and you know what happened after that.
Sister, woke up.
So when they sing that song, I always have there's a special part in my heart that just rejoices because, you know, part of the testimony is that my mom was praying. She had lots of people praying. You know, my family was praying, kids were praying, everybody's praying. And so when the doctor said, okay, well, we're going to warm her body up slowly and see if she responds, because they didn't know if I had brain damage. They didn't know if I was going to be in my right mind. They just didn't know. But God. And my mom was sitting there and she said, the doctor called my name. I didn't wake up, but she called my name. And like I said, on that 3rd day, I woke up. So I just give God the glory and the praise, because at the start of the pandemic, I was off my job. And my husband transitioned in 2018. So we went through that experience in 2016, 2.5 years ago. It was now 3 years now that my husband has transitioned. So, I mean, a lot has transpired in a short time period. But God, he came to me last year and he says, I was with another ministry, a women's group, and we were doing a podcast. And he was like, nope, I want you to start your own podcast and you're going to call it Inspired by Love. And so, when you start getting direction from the Holy Spirit, it's like, okay, I know this is not a mistake. It might be a little, scary because you're going into waters that you really haven't been in. But when we learn to trust in the living God, He will never, ever let us down. Amen. He won't leave you out there in the deep. He said, I am with you. No matter what comes your way, I'm with you. So even while I was laying on that floor, God was saying, I'm with you. I'm with you. Yeah. And I mean, I had no clue. I had no recollection. It was like my brain was on a reset, like a computer, like everything was wiped up until that day. Wow. Up until that day, I couldn't remember nothing else. So I thank God for His goodness and mercy. It is something, because He also said to me, I want you to grieve your husband during this time. And so, because I really hadn't taken, just time off to grieve. Of course I cried and I mourned, but He said to grieve. He said, grieve your husband. And so I'm like, okay, Lord, I can do that. Not knowing what's coming next. We're in this pandemic. We thinking it's going to be a month or two.
Right.
We're in a whole nother year.
Right.
Whole nother year. But will you trust Him? But will you trust Him? Yeah. When we think about Abraham, God told him, I'm going to make you father of many nations, and you are going to have an heir. You're going to have a son. So I'm sure in his old age, he started thinking like, dang, Lord, I'm 75 years old. What?
Sure.
Right. Sure. Like, and all the different things that he experienced, sure enough, he had a promised child. Because he had a child before, but that wasn't the promise.
Right.
So we have to learn to wait on the Lord and let Him work out every detail, because every delay is not a denial. Sometimes a dream delayed is the best, because then you can start thinking about like, oh, if I had done this, then this would have happened. Or if I had done this, then that would have happened. But when we do it in God's timing, it's good.
Yes,
it's blessed. And so I want you guys to talk about now, since we're in this pandemic, and how has that impacted your relationship? You're at home, you're dealing with each other, you're dealing with the kids. Now, Mimi, I've been following you in the Garden Chronicles.
Yes.
So shout out to you for that, because I got garden envy over here. I'm like, we're going to have to do something with our backyard. So
I love it.
Talk about that a little bit.
Wow. I started gardening actually. Well, I've always, I don't know, I don't want to say always, but after I got married, um, had just a desire to, you know, just garden. We
Mhm.
already had some things growing in the yard of where we were living at the time. And so I just wanted to just maintain and keep things pretty, add things here and there. And I was just so intimidated by it. I felt like I didn't know what I was doing. No matter what I tried to do, I'd either overdo it, underdo it, nothing would live. And I was just really winging it. So gardening on and off for a long time. But then after my mom passed, she was always an avid gardener. Um,
Okay.
and so after she passed away, I just had this desire to garden. And I think for two reasons. One, it just made me feel closer to her.
Yes.
It felt like something that connected me to her. And secondly, it was just therapeutic. It was
Mhm.
something that was life giving, and I just needed life around me. So I've gone all the way into the deep with it now. I mean, our backyard is like a little farmstead, you know, a little one,
Yeah,
but
but it looks so nice and
I
lush
love
and
it.
green and oh, I
We
can't
have
wait.
we
Oh,
have a lot of help. The gardeners that got us going are based in Long Beach, and they just did a phenomenal job. Actually,
what's the name?
Organic Harvest Garden
Okay.
in Long Beach, Christian owned, just Black owned as well.
Oh,
Just
that's good.
a beautiful company. But this is actually the second garden they've installed for us. So they installed one at our previous house, and then when we moved, they came and did this garden for us here. So they definitely gave it a great head start.
Okay.
So that's one reason why it's so green and lush and healthy and pretty. They
Yeah.
put stuff into the soil. But okay, back to the topic. You got me going on gardening.
I'm sorry.
It's definitely been a happy place and just a retreat for me,
Mhm.
because we're all in the house together all day, every day. So just stepping out into the garden, even if it's just for 10 minutes, it just kind of gives me a little bit of just a breather and a reset. Like, okay, it's
Take
gonna
a
be
deep
okay.
breath.
Yeah,
Reset.
but it's also something I try to get the kids involved in
Mhm.
as well, and really try to introduce them to their city kids.
Yes.
They're Blackish, so
Yes.
they can just tend to be so disconnected from all of that, and I just wanted them to know the basics of how to grow food. I feel like
Yeah.
it was just necessary knowledge. Um, Being on
Well,
lockdown together has certainly it's been a challenge for sure,
yes.
but I think that it's kind of helped us to kind of stay ahead of some things in our
Yeah.
family, things that we may have missed, and just not realizing, oh, this child needs some extra attention in this area, or this child really needs some extra focus in this
Mhm.
area. I think some of those things we would have missed because we were just,
Busy.
hustle and bustle
Life.
every single
Doing
day.
life.
Yeah, just shuttling from one place to another. But then on the flip side now, it's like we are parents 24/7,
Yes.
24/7, and that is a huge thing because they're not being dropped off at school now. We're
Mhm.
not actively parenting throughout the entire day.
Mhm.
Now we are actively parenting
And teaching.
both of us
Mm.
throughout the entire day. So for our marriage, it's like, oh, we need more breaks, and we have to be more intentional about how
Yeah.
we get those breaks. And it doesn't look like what you want. We can't just drop the kids off someplace and go away for the weekend. We can't
Mhm.
just, that's just not an option that we have right now. So it just looks like, okay, kids, y'all stay in the family room, and
Mhm.
we're going to come to the living room, and we're going to
Mhm.
snuggle up on the couch, and we're going to watch
Mhm.
something that we want to watch. That's what date night kind of looks like
Okay.
in a pandemic, just honestly, or just waiting for the kids to go to bed. So it is what it is right now.
But you're not, here's the one thing I want to say. You're not the only one.
Mhm.
You just being a little bit more creative, maybe. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? So we got to keep it you know.
Yes.
And so, especially for men, because they're so visual, and it's like you're kind of limited. Like, okay, this is all I got. We in the house. We can't go nowhere. And thank you, Lord.
I up my pajama game. I up my sleepwear game. I was, the Holy Spirit just started nudging me. You just get some cute pieces. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
I've been adding to my collection, and those are just things that I think help.
Yeah. Okay, now this segment is rated MA for mature audiences. I just want to put that disclaimer out there, just in case anyone's wondering, is it for children? So MA.
But yes, be warned.
Yeah. So Karim, I want to know, Mimi had mentioned, when you guys started dating, if there was a list or, was there a type of woman that you were looking for? What was it about Mimi that stood out to you?
I don't think I necessarily had a type. Like, I feel like I got a lot of friends that are very specific, like, oh, she's got to do this, or she got to do that, or she got to look like this, she got to have these certain whatevers, or you know what I mean? So I wasn't that, I was never that just like, it's got to be this in no way other, so it's, I feel like it's a lot easier that way, if you put too many stipulations on what you're like, no, you can't like create your spouse, or you can't create somebody, you know what I mean? So if you have this,
you don't even know what you need fully.
Yeah, like
that part.
You have no clue.
Yeah.
So especially for guys, like if your mind is set specifically on what physical things you want your wife to have and be and do and all these different things, then you're limiting yourself. One, two, you're kind of setting yourself up so that you might not be able to find anybody that fits that exact criteria.
Come on.
Three.
And wait, let's talk about, gravity kicks in after a while.
Gravity, it does.
So everything kind of changes and shifts. And, when we talk the quarantine COVID-15 catches up to you. So that's what I'm working on. I'm like,
it does. Right. Yes. It's funny that you mentioned that, because I was thinking the other day, I have one of my cousins that I grew up with. I saw one of his posts the other day, and I saw one of his friends that we grew up with that I had a crush on back in the day, and I'm thinking, like, man, like, I'm so glad I did not end up with, and not even just because of any kind of physical whatever, but it's just like, what she is now is so different than what I have and what I need and what I want and what I whatever. So thank God I didn't end up with what I thought I wanted at one point in time in my life. And then my third point I was going to make with the criteria is that if someone does meet those criteria, specifically speaking of physically, you don't necessarily know what that now means as far as their personality and what the things, the issues they might have, and the baggage that might come along with, and all these different things that are way deeper than the physical. And once like I said before, like, once you start getting into a marriage, you realize that the physical is not what keeps you in a marriage, and those things really are just they can be setting yourself up for a pretty big fall if you do that. So I was never, like I said before, I was never the one that just had to have so many of these different criteria hit. When I met my wife, we actually met over the phone first, and so that was different, and it was. Looking back on it,
the iPhone, no FaceTiming.
No FaceTime. I had an old school flip phone with the. So yeah, it was a lot different. And I feel like so much has changed in those 15 years, 16 years now that we've known each other.
You could text pictures when we met.
No.
You couldn't even text photos.
I had to wait for an email photo from her to find out what she looked like.
It was funny.
Yes, it's so different. The world is 100% different, I feel like, than the way it was 16 years ago. But it's I forgot what the original question even was.
Like, did you have a criteria when you were dating?
Okay, no, I didn't really have a criteria, you know.
Yeah.
I sent the photo.
Oh, but you know what it's funny though, because it's when she sent of course I wanted somebody cute. Every guy wants somebody that's
Of
cute.
course.
At least cute to you. I don't care if she's not cute to anybody else, at least as long as she's cute to me, I'm cool with that.
Right.
And so I remember she sent I somehow like found a way to get her to send a picture. And so she sent the picture and I was like, okay. I was like, all right, okay.
Piqued his interest.
Yeah, I was like, okay, she's cute. I said, but anybody can look cute on one picture. Like anybody can have a good
catfish,
a good angle. You know what I mean? I was waiting for I knew what catfish it was, but I know it was a thing, even though it didn't have a name for me at least. So I'm like, okay, okay, all right.
And you guys were in a different state at this time, right?
Yeah. I was in Virginia and she was here in California. And so we were completely different coasts, different timelines, time zones, the whole nine. And so
it's a miracle that we I'm seeing
it really is.
Going on.
It's a miracle that we ended up together.
No FaceTime, no technology.
Right.
Now, see, that was my next question, because you really setting it up, because now, because of the pandemic and we're dealing with all of this social distancing, I want to speak to how couples are dating. Now, if you saw the first
every Wednesday
show, the first podcast was with my friend Tam Johnson of Make It Rise. And she wrote a book about DWAP. And DWAP is dating with purpose. And so I love that, the title, because it's like, I haven't started dating yet. So I'm like, I have my criteria, but it's not physical. It's spiritual. It's, you've been in a marriage, you've gone through some things. It's like, okay, it's like, I got to either see this or I'm going to know when we start talking what you all about. Because if it's all physical, bye, lose my number. Because I know physical can change. You can look beautiful today and tomorrow I come out in sweats and hair pulled back. You be like, who are you? You know what I'm saying? So we can't be that shallow. I'm a mature person. I'm well seasoned, right? And so I'm like, Lord, you already know what I like. But he still wants us he doesn't choose for us. I want to say that. God does not choose. He's given us free will. So you kind of have to already know the person and develop a friendship. So maybe we'll just start there.
Yeah.
How should people like myself, like people that have never been married, men and women, how should they go about starting up a friendship? Because I think you got to start there first. Because we can talk about chemistry, but you still have to know the person to even have chemistry. You know what I mean? So a conversation, a coffee, where do we start at? Anybody?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's good. I think one thing that really worked for us in our unique situation was we didn't have the physical distraction in the beginning. Because we lived out of state and because we didn't have FaceTime, because technology was just so far from where it is today, we were really forced to talk and not be distracted by the dating process. And so when all of your conversations are verbal, you really get a sense of who that person is, I think, a lot faster when you're distracted by the other things. And so I'm sure there were things about me that became pretty apparent to him pretty quickly. And there were things about him that became apparent to me pretty quickly. And in our case, I think it really helped us to get an honest picture of what our relationship would look like going forward if we did decide to go forward.
Okay. That's good.
I don't know. Obviously, in our situation, we were out of state and all of that. But the pandemic has put distance between people. And so even if it doesn't look exactly like ours did, I think that that we did have a foundation of just honesty and friendship in the beginning, where we went into it. I kind of, well, I'll speak for myself. I went into it with him like, dude, I don't have anything to lose. You're in another state.
Yeah.
Like, if nothing comes from this, I've lost nothing. It's not a big deal. But I went into it like, so where's your head at right now? What
Facts.
So what I'm wanting to know, because I'm like, I don't want to waste time with
Exactly.
anyone and with anything. So if you're not even thinking in this direction, then okay, cool.
Keep stepping. Deuces.
At least I kind of know what category to find me in. But I need to adjust my expectations based on that. And I know sometimes women can feel like, well, I don't want to scare this guy off too soon by pressuring him. And I'm like, but if that's the kind of question that's going to scare a guy off, he needs to be scared off. Because if you're thinking in one direction and he's not, and then you pose the question and that's the deal breaker, you weren't probably heading in the same direction anyway. So I was very just pointed with him from the beginning. Look, we're, what, hey, okay, hi, how you doing? What's up? So what's going on?
Yeah. Just like plan. What you got scheduled for the next 3-5 years?
Yes.
Break it down for me. Because the sister need to know.
Exactly. So I don't know how he probably felt about it, but like I said,
I felt some kind of way about it.
Okay, but I felt like, hey, if we don't have this conversation now, we don't need to be 5-6 months down the line wasting each other's time.
5 years.
Yeah. Like,
or longer.
I just thought we were chilling. I just thought we were this. No. What? The woman sitting by waiting for him to pop the question, and he's like, oh, I thought we could just do this forever. What? So anyway, I needed to know. So I don't have any qualms about, I guess, raising that question very early on.
I think it's good. It's a good dialogue. At least it sets the parameters so he knows, like, oh, she ain't playing. She about her business. It's like, because dudes, they kind of, not all of them. I'm not putting them all in the bucket, but I'm just saying, some of our men need a little help in that area, and we got to help them along because
it's just true.
We got relationship goals we trying to make. We trying to do it for the gram today. Team us,
Yeah.
Oh. Well, Karim, this is a fun one because now that you found your wife and you guys came to some kind of agreement that you was packing up to come to Cali. So how did that all transpire to now we get married?
Gotcha. Well, I'll start with kind of from the beginning. She was hitting me with a bunch of questions, and I remember thinking like, dang, like we ain't even like, man, we're not even together like that yet. Like why you asking all these doggone questions?
Right.
At the same time, like I feel like those questions are important though, and it's something that those questions need to be put out there because either he's going to step up to the table or he's not. You know what I mean? And so if that's the case, then you need to know that from the beginning. Especially now we have a daughter. Like I fully get it. It's like
you fully get it.
Now I fully get it. Like you need to know what's going on from Jump Street. So I can appreciate that. And so for me, even though I wasn't necessarily, when I met her, I wasn't necessarily trying to get into a relationship. Like I wasn't trying to, I wasn't looking for a wife. I wasn't looking for a soulmate. I just got out of a long relationship. So I was kind of just done with the whole relationship thing and accountability and having to like answer to somebody now. Like I wasn't looking for any of that. So here she comes with all these questions and I'm like, man, like I'm not, I wasn't, but at the same time,
finish your point.
But at the same time, there was something in her that I saw, and there was light in her that I saw, and there was a lot in her that I saw that I was like, you know what? Let me not just just push this thing away just because I might not be fully ready or fully mature or whatever. Like I know I'm not necessarily thinking the smartest right now. So
Mm-hmm.
if that's the case, then let me really, just give her the chance and to really say what she needs to say and ask questions she wants to ask and be as honest as she wants to be.
I love it.
We can actually like see whether this could be something that, is real. And I knew that I saw enough in her to see that, there's there's enough good there that it's definitely worth like to the time to see. Okay, let me pump my brakes a little bit and let me really
Yeah.
try to get my ego and my pride and my selfishness and my whatever out the way so I can really see what she's about. So that's
So the backstory
Okay.
the question is probably being raised. Well, then, like, how in the world did you guys meet? So we were actually introduced, and that's how we met. So it's it can sound a little weird without that piece of knowledge,
Okay.
the context. And so
Mm-hmm.
the two very eager parties that introduced us. One was actually his mother, and the other was my godmother.
Okay.
And so here they are kind of egging this on behind the scenes and, kind of pushing it together. So I guess in my mind, I'm thinking, well, if someone is really nudging me toward this guy, then I need to investigate and kind of figure out where his head is at.
Exactly.
So it happened in the kind of setting where we just happened upon each other.
Mm-hmm.
There was some egging on happening behind the scenes that made me feel like I needed to just assess for myself, where is his head at?
Yeah.
Even with that egging on, because it was my mom, I was like, I was like, nah, if it's somebody that you want me to.
Right, exactly. That's suspect
my
right
whole
there.
life, if there's anybody that you brought to the table and wanted me to meet, I've never liked them. So this probably the same as the last, so nah. And
he probably thought I had on a big old huge church.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like, was she real homie? What's the deal on her?
I was like, nah,
Yeah. Now, where was your relationship with Christ at that time when you guys were hooking up?
Yeah, I feel like I was in a great place. I mean, a better place than I had ever been. And as I guess a young adult, I guess I would be not quite. I think I was almost mid-20s when we met. I don't think I was like 24. Up until the time I was 19, 20, my relationship, I felt like I was a grandchild.
Okay.
I knew the Lord and I loved the Lord.
Yes.
But it had always been through my parents. But it was not until I became a young woman that I really was like, well, Lord, like, wait, who are you to me? Like, who are you in my life? And so I felt like I was just in a really great place. And I actually this is a fun little nugget about how we met, also had just gotten out of a relationship.
Okay.
With a guy who on the surface was a nice guy, but we just weren't compatible. It just wasn't God. And
yes.
Just like trying to force, a size 8 foot into a size 6.5 shoe. You could probably squeeze it in there, but it's gonna be painful. So
what's the song? If it don't fit, don't force it.
Yeah, it was like that. So my mom and I were out one night. We went to see a movie, and it was actually Princess Diaries Part 2. And it was so funny because the main character in the movie, her middle name is my first name, Mignonette, and it's just like who has that name,
right?
In a well-known setting like that. So it was always just a way where I felt connected to that character. The storyline in that particular movie was that she had to get married or else she was going to lose her right to the throne. And so she ends up kind of in this arranged marriage kind of thing where people are trying to introduce her to all these different princes so that she can maintain whatever. And so it was a really cute movie. But at the very end of the movie, I said, Lord, I want an arranged marriage, and I want you to choose my husband for me. And I just, and so that was just my prayer. And it seems like, not long, I mean, within a couple of weeks, I think, then we were introduced. And so I just was at that place where I was like, I don't want my time wasted.
Right.
I need to know where you are. Yeah.
But see, here's the thing. I said earlier, God doesn't force anyone on us, but he does honor his word. So you prayed and God honored it. He honored what was said, and he said, okay. It's not like he's doing any magic, but it's like your will is involved.
Yeah.
So now it's like when you pray, we allow God to come in on the scene. We give him permission to come in and direct and lead and guide. So
because we still had to pick up the phone. So so we had the arrangers in the background that were being used by God, whether they, I believe they knew that they were being led, but we weren't so convinced that they were being led. We were just kind of like, oh, okay, let's see.
Exactly. And then you get in it and it's like, okay, he kind of cute. Wait a minute.
Exactly. They knew what they were doing. They knew,
Wow, that's awesome. That is a good story. Actually, that's something you can pass down to your kids, because when you're dating and it's like, and like, I'm just only going to speak for myself, because I got married when I was 21.
Okay.
From my high school sweetheart. Hadn't dated anyone else. He's the only one. And so I'm like, well, and at the time, the church that we were going to, I had been going to for years. So it was like, well, I don't do that. I'm good, So it really caused him to come into the fold and say, you know what, I want to see what this is all about, and blah, blah, blah. Next thing I know, he done joined. And so now we're going to church together. So it's like, that was not a bad thing. That was a good thing. However, you spoke about the compatibility. And I think that could be the missing. There were flags that I chose not to look at.
Wow.
And so had I just looked a little deeper, because I didn't know what I didn't know, right? I didn't know, oh, that's a flag. That's a red flag. That's, it's like somebody's waving flags here. So you got to like pause for the cause, and get your life. Get your life. So you don't want to rush into a marriage, and you do want to have godly wisdom and people that are surrounding you with godly, influence, because you both can love the Lord and you both can be Christian, but that doesn't mean that person is the suitable helper for you.
Yeah, that's good. That's it. That's it. Yeah, and marriage, it is a love thing. It is a romantic thing, but it's also a partnership. I think even more so, and just you have to figure out how these two very different people. Karim and I are opposites. Like, we are so different. It's a trip. I'm like, oh my gosh, but it works. We have strengths in different areas. So the partnership piece, you really have to be able to see beyond the heart eyes and to see, okay, how do we complement each other?
Yes.
How do we strengthen each other? How does this person help me to see my blind spots? How does this person maybe call me out on things that I haven't allowed other people in my life
come on
out on?
You preaching, girl.
It's true. And then not be mad at them for it, but be thankful that they value me enough to tell me the truth about things that are difficult for me to see about myself. That's the part that I think we can't sacrifice for the sake of the hard eyes. Yeah.
Well, you know what? I just want to say let's summarize it right there, because we can go on and on and on, but what you have given us, the audience, I'm an audience too, it's like a peek into your life. You pull back the curtain and you say, yeah, come on in, come on, have a seat. You're in our living room, and you start talking about how you met, what were you thinking, how the children came along. So now you structured a family.
Yeah.
And now you're bringing your family up in the way they should go. Yes. Because the word says, train up a child in the way they should go. When they are old, they won't depart from it. So I know that to be true. Yes. And I know that God blesses unions. He has a blessing. There's a specific blessing on a union, yes. Right? Yes. And so he says, when a man finds a wife, he finds a good thing and obtains favor from the Lord. So he gets it's a double. I like you say, I'm a whole package, baby. I'm the whole snack. I'm a whole meal. So come on, bring it, But it's like God is into multiplication. Yes. You don't just get one, you get two. Yes. So when it's you two, it's really three. Yes. Right? And so then when you guys come together, you start multiplying and bringing in life. So I just love the opportunity that you have allowed us to come in and you share your love story, which is so tender, and it's just enlightening because it's food for thought. Yeah. It's food for thought for anybody who's looking to be married, who's looking to start dating, and maybe looking for that life partner. Yes. Yeah. Because it is God, when he saw Adam, after Adam named all the animals, and the animals were doing what animals do, yes. Adam probably was sitting there going like, but I don't have anybody to, what? And then God saw that. Yes. Because remember, there's no other person. He had to make Adam. Yes. And so he was like, oh, he's lonely. All right, go and sleep. Let me whip you up, somebody. But he didn't just put us together like a robot. See, for man, it was like, blah, 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 blah. There's man. But for woman, he took out his shears and he carved this woman and presented her, molded her, shaped her. And so he presented her to him. That's good. And so I said, okay, Lord, I'm supposed to be presented to the man. I don't have to be running after no man. I don't have to chase after no man. I'm not thirsty. Just let me see. My spirit agree. If they're saying something to me, I'm not being prudish or saying, oh, no, I don't talk to, no, I keep it real. I'm friendly, I'm outgoing, but I know when it's supposed to be. I'm not going to be standoffish. So I'm just praying my prayer for women that are looking for that mate, that they will take the time to search the word out, because there's something that they need to do, and the word is telling them to do something. So when the two come together, they're ready. Yes. They're ready. That's good. So I just appreciate your time and having this conversation with me. It was so pleasant, and it was just wonderful.
Awesome. Thank you for having us.
Likewise.
Awesome. So look forward to see your flyer soon.
Yes.
And everyone else that is following our podcast, be sure to watch the next episode of Inspired by Love, as we are tackling dating, relationships, and marriage as designed by God. And remember these words: be inspired by love. Bye now.
Thank you for tuning in to Inspired by Love. Join us every Wednesday for the juice to be inspired. Like, follow, and share this podcast. Be sure to leave a positive rating.